Okay, we are live and here with Mary. What do you see? And we have a little special little change of pace tonight. We have Mary the medium, as always, the wonderful Mary, who is fresh back from Spirit Fest in Melbourne, Florida. She wasn't international or anything. She's in Florida. And it's just a little head. And we have a special guest. Barbara is back. Barbara the Tarot Mistress. And we're going to go over some.
Barbara.
She's going to introduce us to tarot. But just a little heads up, Mary's a little bit under the weather. So we're going to be kind of, we're going to flap our chops a little bit and give Mary a little bit. But she's with us tonight.
Right.
So.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. Barbara, so nice to have you back. I loved it when you were on before. And I'm excited about learning about tarot. This is on our series of gifts, okay? And Barbara's going to take us through everything we need to know about the art of tarot. And so with that, I turn it over to Jason and Barbara. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thanks again. It's great having you back. And as we talked earlier, I'll let you start since you are the expert. And I'm also very curious with, I mean, you're much more well-versed. I mean, so just, if you want to just start with the, basics and
Okay. All right. Well, first of all, anyone who didn't see the last one doesn't know who I am or what I do. I am a tarot reader and a tarot reader, psychic medium. What else? Astrologer. When I was young, I can even read beer foam, so that's sort of a scary. I could do that.
Wow.
So anyway, and I've been reading tarot since I was a teenager, so there's a lot of experience here. I've studied with I've read a lot of books. I've studied with a lot of people. I've worked with a lot of really wonderful, great, amazing psychics. So I've picked up a lot during over the time. So, but I'm so happy to be here tonight because tarot is my passion. And I know that Jason said, Barbara's going to tell you everything you need to know about tarot.
Well,
so, yeah.
Not everything,
but
of
I
course. We'll get our toes wet.
To give you a good start, and maybe I'll inspire you to pick up a tarot deck. So
me for sure.
Yeah. All right. Oh, as a matter of fact, Jason and I talked about that. Mary, I know you have no tarot decks, right?
No, I don't know anything about
Jason
tarot.
has no tarot decks. So
I don't know.
I am going to select a tarot deck for each one of you. And I'm going to So and by the way, as far as decks go, they say that your first deck should be given to you. The first deck, suppose it should be gifted to you. So,
really?
Yeah, they say that. And mine was gifted to me when I was about 14 years old. I still have it, but it's a special box because and I think I might have lost one also. So,
okay.
So anyway, so let's talk about tarot. What the heck? What is it? And Mary, you asked before about what's the difference between tarot and oracle decks. Okay. So tarot is very it's got a structure. Okay. It's a structure. Okay. Oracle decks don't really have a structure. They can have a few cards or more cards or but it doesn't have a structure. So what we're gonna be going over is like, what is the structure? Okay, but we'll get to that next. So basically, what tarot is, it's a structured process, I guess, or a structured system for guidance, self-reflection, and divination. Okay. So there's two ways you can use tarot. Whenever you watch TV, you see the tarot card, they're like, oh, you got the death card. Okay. That's they're going to get the death card, which, by the way, the death card doesn't necessarily mean death, but anyway, but oracle cards are sort of, you can use those, like this is one of my favorites, Spirit messages from Spirit, John Holland. Let's just say you're just sort of lost and you just don't know where to go. You can pick up an oracle deck and you can just turn the card over and read what it says. Tarot is a little more complicated. It's basically a language in a way. It's a pictorial language for communicating with spirit. Okay.
Oh wow.
And like what's happened to me over the years is I have developed a language. So when I see a certain card in a certain sequence, I know intuitively what Spirit's trying to tell me. I know that. But that takes a while. You can't, and I laugh sometimes because I see on YouTube it says learn tarot in 1 week. Learn tarot in 1 week, or learn tarot in 24 hours. Learn tarot in 24 hours. That's like saying learn Italian in 24 hours. Okay.
Right.
I mean,
no.
So maybe I guess you could do something, but I feel that if you really want to get into tarot, it's going to take some work and some structure, depending on what you want to do. So it's a pictorial language for communicating with spirit. It's the tarot is a storyteller. It's visuals. It's visual images. And the people, and Mary, I'm not shocked that you would be interested in tarot because you're very clairvoyant. You're very imaging, and Jason too. I know artwork. So visual people, are into tarot. Some mediums, it speaks to me.
Well, yeah, it's really weird because I want to say this because I have been dying. I mean, like something in my soul is saying, go find an antique. I mean, like seriously, antique tarot deck or oracle deck, Mary. And it's telling me, and it has to be either from Italy or France. And it's like something in my soul is telling me that. And it's like, why?
Because there's a deck floating around there somewhere in the ether that is looking for a home with you. Okay. So
that's crazy. Yeah.
Everything we do is crazy. So it's not.
Yeah. I'm all for it.
So I will keep my eye out. You never know. But you could try Etsy, but it's really better to get it from a person.
I agree.
So, all right. So what else do I want to say? Okay. So the tarot, go ahead. Were you going to say something?
Oh no, I had tell me when you want to put the slide up of the pictures.
I'm going to get that next. Okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah, sure.
The tarot can be a storyteller. I'm a big storyteller. I'm a Gemini. I never shut up. So, and sometimes people look at me and they go, "Oh, you use tarot cards?" And I'm like, "Yes." Like they're my friends. Like
right
to me, it's like they're my spirit guides. And I know not everybody uses cards, but it doesn't mean you don't know what you're doing because you use cards. They're just speaking the language.
Right.
Helping me with the language. My tarot cards are my best friend. I mean, there are times when you have issues you have a question about something and you call everybody, nobody's home. All right. Nobody's home. Right. Nobody can talk to you. And then you're freaking out. So I get out my cards and I say, what do I need to know about this situation? And I lay them out and it blows my mind because some of the things that come up are something that I never even thought of. I'm like, I wasn't thinking about that. So I don't know. Did I make those cards come up or is it spirit? I don't know. I don't know how that works, but it's amazing. And spirit, the tarot cards can also be they're like a guidance counselor, a big guidance counselor. Okay. If you want to know, like, what should I do about this or that? One of the things I was going to talk about, and I'll just put it in here so I don't forget, but when you ask a question, asking a question to the tarot, making a question is very important. So you don't want to ask a yes or no question, like, will I get this job? It's,
right.
Because that's a yes or no question. You're not letting the tarot give you insights. Okay. It's like you're talking to somebody, you have a conversation with somebody, and they always get back to you with one word. So how was your day today? Fine. You know,
Right.
what are you doing tomorrow? Nothing. It's like
you got to pull.
Yeah, you got to pull it. So you got to leave it open. So rather than saying, "Am I going to get this job?" Just you could say, you know, can you give me some insights about what I can expect? You know, what I can expect in the coming days having to do with this job or whatever. So like, again, that's really important. And don't ask negative questions. And again, we talked about this. Is he cheating?
Right.
Like, okay, well, I don't want any part of that, you know, like, but you could say, what is, you know, like, what is stopping my husband and I from having a good communication, or, you know, give me some insights in the communication issues, something like that. So, yes, I just want to put that in there, that you got to make sure you ask the correct question. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the structure of tarot, because that's really important, and that is what it makes. That's what makes it different from reading cards. There are card readers, and a very good friend who reads playing cards. It's great, and it's sort of the same, but it's a little different. Okay, so tarot has a very fixed structure of 78 cards. Okay, the 78 cards are sort of in three categories. Okay, the first category is the major arcana. So you can put that one up on the screen there, Jason. Okay, so major arcana. So the word arcana actually means secrets. Okay, so yeah, secrets or mystery or something. So major arcana means, you know, like major secrets. Okay,
right.
There are actually 22 of these cards. The Fool is actually number 0, okay, and the World is number 20. Is number 21. So, what's interesting about this major arcana is they're actually archetypes. Okay, so if anyone's read Carl Jung, the father of psychology or whatever it is, he sort of came up with this idea of these archetypes. So these archetypes are basically sort of stages in our existence, in our journey. So you start out with 0, the Fool. So the Fool is the beginning. This is the newborn baby, like it's 0 because he hasn't really done anything yet. He's like silly putty, silly putty to be. Okay. So you start out with that, and then you go through these different stages. Okay. So if you want to look at the first 6 cards here, I say this represents our social self. So this is what we learn as a child. Okay. So, and I'm not going to go through each one of them because that would take too long, but the Magician is sort of when the baby starts grabbing things and touching things, and, they sort of like they're getting together or understanding their environment. And then you go to the, so that's more of a physical type thing. Then you have the High Priestess, which is sort of the subconscious, so now the baby, has a subconscious. They learn maybe that when they cry, they get food. And then you go through these other stages. We have mother, father, you learn about religion, you learn about reading, working with other people. And then you learn about, how to walk on your own. Then we get to the next 6. It says open things up to a moral realm where we must confront how our actions influence others. So the ones that are in the middle here, the Strength card is, basically you're interacting with, it's got some feminine energy. You're interacting with other people, nurturing. And so I'm not going to go through all of these, but they all have to do with, you confronting and working with others. Okay.
Okay.
And so I guess you could say this is the beginning of life. And then in the middle, that's sort of the middle of life, maybe. But then you get to the last sequence here. And it says opens things up to on a cosmic scale to karma, destiny, and life lessons. So when you get to the end of your life, we have the devil card here. So the devil card, if you get a devil card or you have a lot of devil energy, it probably means that you haven't come to terms with the archetypes in the first 2 rows. I haven't come to terms with my relationship with my mother, my father, religion, money, rebirth, change. So that can issue. And then the Tower card, sometimes, let's say there's somebody that doesn't like their job and they're constantly saying, I hate my job. I don't like my job. It's so terrible. Oh, I can't see, I get it. And you say, well, why don't you get a new job? Oh, I can't get a new job because, what if I lose my job? They'll go on and on. You're like, okay, whatever. So what'll happen is then the universe, I say, the universe shoots them a tower. In other words, if you can't change your job and you hate your job, then I'm just gonna have somebody take over the company and have you get laid off.
Wow.
Okay. So that's the Tower card. But I love that the fact after the Tower card comes the Star card, because the Star card is the card of destiny. And so that's what happens. It's like, but now you lost your job, but now you're going to get a better job. Okay. And then you just go through and then you go like, okay, well, now I got this better job, but now things are all confused. We have the Moon card. Everything's confused. I don't know what's happening. But then I figure it out. We got the Sun card and then Judgment card. You're like, okay, well,
Mary was taken aback by the last thing you said there.
Sorry.
It really jolted her. Yeah.
Okay. So you don't want, basically, if you want to do, you don't want them to shoot you a tower, because a tower comes out of, comes out of nowhere and hits you up the side of the head, and you're like, oh.
Right.
But here's the thing about the Tower card, which is so cool, I think, is that if you get a Tower card and something happens, when you look back 2 years later, usually, most of the time, 90% of the time, things are better. And you say, oh my God, I get it. I get it why I had to, I had to like go through this thing.
I watched, Barbara, a gal who does tarot today at Spirit Fest do a reading on herself.
Oh, I read myself all the time.
Yeah. And then she's like, I did a reading on myself. I have a lot to learn. And it was like, really? And I didn't understand. I thought, oh my God, something bad must have happened when she pulled the cards. I didn't. Yeah. So now this is very interesting to.
I do have a friend who will not read herself because she says, but then I make things, I might make things up. And I say, but that's the point. It's coming out of your head.
Right. Yeah.
The point, like that's the point. And you do have to be careful, because there is a point when you're reading tarot, a very important point, where you have to understand what's coming from spirit and what's coming from what I call your monkey brain. And your monkey brain is the one that says, oh, you're never going to get a parking spot. You're never going to meet anybody. You're never going to get a good job.
That'd be the system coming through, kind of like, yeah.
And that is why you should not try to do a tarot card reading, especially for yourself, when you're not in a good mood. You can read for other people, because usually I can turn it off, and no matter what happens during the day, when I start reading, it's like I start with a fresh, brain.
Gotcha. Okay.
So anyway, just to finish off the major arcana here, the major arcana, we end up with the Judgment card, which is reborn, rebirth. And then the World is the end of the chapter. We're ready to start over again. So let's say somebody gets a divorce. Okay. Somebody may go through all of these steps. And then the World card, they finally get divorced, and now they become the Fool again. So we may go through this journey in our life many times. So if you're doing a reading and you get a lot of major arcana cards, it means that you got a lot of things happening. There are a lot of things happening in your life, a lot of milestones, or a lot of archetypes, a lot of changes. So if I see somebody that's got a lot of these, I'm like, oh boy, not bad. It's just that you're going to be going through some things. So,
okay, gotcha.
right. So that's major arcana. So let's go to the minor arcana. Okay. So we'll put the next one on the minor arcana.
And is that, yep.
Okay, so here's the minor arcana. So minor secrets.
Wow.
Okay? So these are things that happen day to day, little things that happen during the day. All right. Or
Okay.
there's mini milestones. I want to call them mini milestones. Okay. So the minor arcana, similar to it's similar to playing cards. Okay. You have 1 through 10. Okay. You have the different suits. All right. So wands are like clubs, and cups are hearts, and swords are clubs, spades, and then pentacles are what's the other one? Anyway, they go.
Yeah, or king, or, yeah.
Yeah.
Kings, queens, aces, jacks.
Royalty.
Yeah.
Right. So, basically it's the first one is fire, and then water, and then air, and then earth. Okay. So that's also important in a tarot reading. Did you get a lot of wands? Okay. Because that's fire, and that's about passion, spirit, passion. Okay. Did you get a lot of cups in a reading? Okay. That's about emotions, love, it's very emotional. Did you get a lot of swords? Unfortunately, I get a lot of swords. Swords are, they're challenges. They're challenges. I mean, you can look at the swords major kind of look at the 3 of swords with the things going through the heart. The 9, the person can't sleep. The 10, they're like stabbed in the back. Not these are okay. I know it sounds bad, but again, in the sequence, it depends. We're going to talk about that. It depends on the layout. Okay. It depends on the layout. If you're doing like a layout, past, present, future, you don't want to get the 10 of swords as the last card, but that's not the end. You know what I mean? But that's a difficult thing, but if you've got the 10 of swords in the first spot in the past, could mean that somebody passed away, or, or they're getting divorced, or they had to leave their house, or whatever. So
can I just throw the 10 of swords out of the deck?
Can you what?
No.
Because okay, that would be okay. I say that too, but you think about it. If we don't have challenges, we can't grow. So
Right.
what would we be like? What would be like if we had all wands? If we were like just passionate all day, it like fire, you'd burn yourself out. All cups, you'd be crying you'd be emotionally crying all day, and pentacles, you can have a lot of money, but you're missing cups. So if you have pentacles, you're going to have money, but you might not have a lot of love. You see? So yeah, so I wish I could throw out the every birthday has a card.
Right.
Birthday, because we also include numerology in this. So ones, the aces, are about new beginnings. Okay. And then 2s, and then 3s, and then 4s, and then 10s are like endings. So when you're reading a tarot, you're looking at the number, you're looking at the element, the suits, and you're looking, and then you're looking at the meanings of everything. And you can learn a lot about people just by seeing how many swords and how many cups and how many, people get.
Wow.
Okay. And what's missing, if you've got all wands and you've got all swords and maybe pentacles, but you have no cups, it could mean I got money, I got passion, and I'm really smart, but I have no love,
right.
no,
Gotcha.
or I have no emotions at all. So, yeah, but so that's that. So I think any questions about this?
No.
No. Okay.
I think those are, yeah.
And then the other thing I want to add in here, well, let me finish the last part, and then I'm going to throw a monkey wrench into the whole thing. Okay. So just when you think you have it all figured out, I'm going to throw in there a monkey wrench. All right. Let's go to the court cards. Okay. So the next one is the court cards. And by the way, the major arcana, the minor arcana and the court cards, you put them together and they're a card deck. They're what we play solitaire with, except
wow.
yeah, except with the wands, with the court cards, they've added one. Okay, because we just ace, king, jack in your cards, but they've added one. They've added a page. Okay.
Okay.
So what that means is, a king has a lot of male energy, a lot of, authority, go for it, that kind of thing. A queen serves the king, but the queen she really tells the king what to do, but the king,
Right.
she's important, but she deals with feminine energy. The knight serves the queen. So just like in the old Camelot thing where we had Guinevere and Lancelot, okay, the knight usually protects the queen, or the knight is closer to the queen than the king,
Okay, gotcha.
And then we have the page. So the page is sort of the adolescent of the tarot, the adolescent. So sometimes the page is called the prince or the princess. Also, knights have pages. If anyone saw Game of Thrones, I bet you did, Jason. Did you watch Game of Thrones? Okay, so remember,
I did. Someone I was dating made me watch all of it in a very short period of time.
if you remember Brianna, okay, so Brianna, that night, which she had the page with her all the time, that young guy, that page guy, who eventually would become a knight. So the page of wands could be a king or a queen, in learning. Okay. So now it gets a little more complicated, okay, because now we're going to add the elements. We're going to add the elements into the court cards, okay? So wands are about energy, all right? So let's just look at the king and the queen of wands, okay? So the king of wands, it's passion, it's energy. He's a visionary. He's a great speaker. He's charismatic. Okay. The queen of wands, I always call the queen of wands the kick-ass woman. Okay. Mary, you might be you might be a queen of wands. Yeah. Very spiritual. She's not afraid to get up and talk in front of public. And, whatever, like, I don't care, man, woman, just get out of my way. Okay.
Yeah.
The Knight of Wands, I call this the Indiana Jones guard, okay? Because remember how Indiana Jones was, he was like going and looking for, he was he was probably a Knight of Pentacles, and when he was doing his thing, for the school, whatever, and then all of a sudden be like, hey, let's go look for the crystal skull. All of a sudden he became a Knight of Wands. Okay. So you think about that archetype. And then the Page of Wands, this is a really good, it's like new beginnings. Okay. So if somebody's going to get a new job or a new baby, it would be a new beginning that you would be excited about. So if you get a Page of Wands, that's like a good thing. I call the Page of Wands goosebump energy, or an opportunity with goosebump energy. You get goosebump energy, but you haven't started the job yet. You're just like excited about it. Okay. Just like Mary wants to do tarot. So there's a little bit of Page of Wands going on there. Okay.
Yeah.
Excited about that. And then we go to cups. All right. So remember, cups are emotion. So somebody gets a King of Cups. And this is very interesting because when I do readings and the King of Cups comes up and I'm like, oh, you're married? They go, yeah. I'm like, okay, let me tell you about your husband. Okay.
Right.
King of Cups, it's very, the main thing about this part is, they speak a lot. Like the King of Wands might talk so fast you can't even understand what he's doing, and you don't want to work with a King of Wands or Queen of Wands because they want to do a project. They go, oh yeah, I take the see you later. I gotta go. So the King of Cups. Now the King of Cups is a music. He's creative. He loves his home. He loves his family. He's very visual. Okay. So, and then the Queen of Cups. So actually, we can actually be two queens in we can actually have energy for two queens. So Mary, you definitely a Queen of Wands, okay? Although you could be a Queen of Swords too, but you're also a Queen of Cups. So Queen of Cups is the good wife, the good mother, very intuitive, psychic, just, an amazing, wonderful, kind person. Okay.
Oh,
but when you get up there in front of people, or you're put to the test at Spirit Fest, you're going to put on your Queen of Wands outfit.
Or driving.
Right? You put on your Queen of Wands outfit, and you watch out. I'll kick your butt. So Knight of Cups. I call that the Prince Charming card. Okay, the Prince Charming card. They love to serve the queen. They like to make the women, happy. They're the ones who bring flowers and all of that. But you got to be careful with the Knight of Cups, because they don't have a hard shell. Okay. The Knight of Wands, they don't care. You can say whatever you want to them. They could care less. They're like, they don't care. But the Knight of Wands is very sensitive. Okay. Also creative. And then the Page of Cups, I love the Page of Cups. Like do you have any grandchildren, Mary? Grandchildren?
No, I don't.
So if I see this is one of the grandchildren cards, like a newborn baby, that, and the Fool, a newborn baby. But if we're talking about a young person, then this is the young creative person, the one that you could put them in the corner and give them 2 spoons, and they're going to play for, they'll play for like hours.
Really?
With 2 spoons and some crayons and whatever. Page of Wands, you give them a toy, they'll look at it, and then they'll go like, okay, what else you got? After 5 minutes, what else you got?
Gotcha.
Okay. Now we come to the swords. Okay. So swords are has almost an authoritative military feel. Okay. So swords, well, yes and no, but swords are air. Okay. These are people who use their brain as a weapon. Okay. Okay. Well, how do I want to say? As a weapon, I hate
strategist.
To say it. Yeah, strategy. So the King of Swords, one thing when you want to know if somebody is a King of Swords or not, they have the ability, the King of Swords has the ability to take their emotions and put them in a little box, okay, when they have to. So firemen, policemen, surgeons, people in the military, they got to kill people or whatever, they, might have a King of Swords type mentality. And again, you have to use your brains to get what you're going. The Queen of Swords. Okay. So she's like, it's the warrior queen. Okay. I don't know if anyone ever remember Xena, warrior princess. Does anyone remember?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Xena, warrior princess, is the epiphany of the Queen of Swords. Okay. It's like, just watch out. She was very smart, and she had a sword, and she could fight. And this sword also comes up a lot of times for women who are widowed or divorced or not married, or, it's because like, I don't need anybody to complete me. Okay.
Right.
The Queen of Cups, you very seldom find the Queen of Cups without a relationship, because she's a nurturer. If she can't nurture, then what's the point? The Queen of Swords, she doesn't care. She doesn't care about nurturing. Now, sometimes we have to put on our Queen of Swords outfits, like something happens, like you lose your husband or something, and now you got 2 kids, and you're, a single mom, and, you might have been a Queen of Cups, at this point, you got to put on your Queen of Swords outfit, and you got to go out there and do what you got to do. Okay.
Right.
So,
okay. So you have somebody in the audience. April goes, Barb, you are amazing.
Oh, thank you, April.
I
think I know who that is, and thank you. And April, you know who the Queen of Swords is. Okay, you know the Queen of Swords in your life. Okay. So, and then the Knight of Swords. I love this card, the Knight of Swords. Okay, so look at the card. Okay, he's charging forward. He has no idea where he's going. Even the horse is scared. All right. The horse is even scared. He's like, oh, shit. What the hell is happening? But this is a card. This is a card of action. And there are times when we just need to take action.
Right.
Okay. We just need to take action. And it's funny, if you look at the card, look at the Knight of Wands. The Knight of Wands is like, yeah, going on an adventure. Look at me. And the cups, the king, the Knight of Cups is like, hey, I'm bringing this cup to my girlfriend, you know. But the Knight of Cups is like, I call it the go for it card. And the energy around this always reminds me of, if you go to the racetrack, go to the racetrack, and you see the horses in those before the big race. They're in those things. They're going like this, right? You know, like, so this card to me is the let me out and let me run card. Okay. I don't know if I'm going to win. I don't know if I'm going to lose, but just get me out of the stall and let me do my thing. All right. And then Page of Swords, the Page of Swords. Okay, so this is, first of all, it's a very competitive card, which you might imagine. So if this is your grandchild, they might be involved in sports, you know, like there's a whole competition there. They also tend to be old souls. And sometimes you have to say to them, listen, you're 9, parent, child. Okay. You had one of those. But yeah, I'm the parent, you're the child, you know. Yeah. So
I tell myself that every day.
Yeah, I'm the parent, you're the child, all right? This is what you're supposed to do. So that's and again, competition. So again, if we were talking about Game of Thrones, okay, you know who would be, again, Game of Thrones? You remember Ayla in the Game of Thrones? She was the youngest daughter that went, anyway, she's
the one.
Perfect. She's a perfect Page of Swords. Okay. She went out there. She went out there and killed all the people who killed her father. And she was like, did that. So yeah, that's good. And then we have Pentacles, Earth sign. Okay. So the King of Pentacles. Okay. So, and here's the cool thing about it. Remember I told you, he told Pamela Coleman Smith, and you got to put astrology in there, and you got to put this and that. So if you look at the King of Pentacles on the back of his thrones, you're going to see 2 bulls. Okay. So the astrological sign that goes with that is Taurus. So if you think about what Taurus is or does, it's all about pleasure and living the good life, and, you know, living in luxury and having security and being good with the money. So that's sort of what the Knight of Pentacles is about. Also, you could see he's got all these grapes hanging from his, hanging from his coat. Okay. So this guy likes to go out, get dressed up, go out to a fancy restaurant and have some drinks. Okay. So yeah, this is the card of the CEO, or, you know, somebody, you know what I mean? Earthy CEO person. Okay. And then you have the Queen of Pentacles. So the Queen of Pentacles, she's Mother Earth, basically. You know, she's Mother Earth. She gets the home and the family. And I think if you look on her throne, you're going to see a little Capricorn going on there. On the bottom of the throne, there's a little goat there. So she's like Capricorn energy. So what does Capricorn's very structured. It's ruled by Saturn. So it's very structured. It's very organized. Okay.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So usually a lot of times, okay, Queen of Pentacles make great office managers. They're perfect. Okay. They're organized. The Queen of Pentacles would keep, okay, so you have the King of Swords. The King of Swords could be like the doctor, all right? But the Queen of Pentacles would be the office manager. She keeps everything going. You wouldn't want the Queen of Cups doing that, because she'd be crying all the time. And you wouldn't want the Queen of Wands to be doing that, because she'd be telling off all the clients. All right. And you wouldn't want the Queen of Swords doing that, because you know, who knows?
You wouldn't have any clients.
Yeah, you might physically smack them. So anyway, they also love animals. The Queen of, you know, they're very big animals. I love animals. And I believe there are animals in this, but it's just it's very earthy. It's Mother Earth. It's grounded. Okay. And then the page of, let me see, the Knight of Pentacles. Okay. This is like the guy next door. Okay. This is your best friend, the guy that, like he's always there for you, yeah, it's usually the people who Knight of Pentacles energy. I'll say, oh, is your husband a project manager? They're like, oh, how'd you know that? It's like, yeah, because he's got Knight of Pentacle energy. They're very reliable. So people love them. They'll be like, oh, okay, Joe, here's 20 projects. Go do it. And
Okay.
that he's going to be doing, and he's going to be doing it right. A Knight of Swords might take some shortcuts, and Knight of Pentacles will just, buy the book. And then the Page of Pentacles, sort of like that. That's sort of like an adolescent. So this is the kid, the younger person who's always on the computer, but also knows what they want to be. Like this is the 9-year-old that says, I've decided, like I'm going to be a doctor, or I'm going to be an engineer, or whatever. They know right away. They're very grounded.
That wasn't me.
That be you?
It's not me.
Yeah, no.
But they're also interested in science, and also, this would be the kid that says, like, I'm gonna like study this or that, or I'm gonna study business because I want to make money, but they're not to the point where money means everything, but they understand that I'm gonna need money in my life, like to get on with my life. So that the Page of Cups just says, I'm not worried about it because I'll live with mommy and daddy for the rest of my life. And the Page of Wands would say, I don't know. Like I'll just do whatever, and I'm sure something will work out. Okay. And then the Page of Swords is like, well, I'll just find a job I want, and I'll steal that person's job, and they're willing to fight, like if I want this job, I'll fight for it or whatever, but then the Page of Pentacles says, no, I'm going to plan and structure this thing. So, all right. So that takes care of that. Now, the next one, you could put up the next one, is the picture of Pixie, because I want to talk about who Pixie is and that. So let's just talk about the evolution of tarot. Okay. So around in the 1350s, we have the first sort of like beginnings of tarot. Okay. And they, at that point, there was no printing, so everything was hand drawn. And wow. The elite in Milan, I think it was the Visconti court, they commissioned these cards to be made. Okay. These cards, they were all hand drawn. Some of them looked very much, the kings and the queens looked very much like members of the family. They were like family portraits. They were all hand drawn. Okay. Wow. They had, before that, there was the beginnings of card games, had happened. Mm-hmm. And they sort of added in the major arcana. So it's interesting the way the major arcana happened, is that they used to have these processions. Okay. And each procession, it would start with the Fool, and each procession would like overpower the next one. You know what I mean? So the Fool, and then next would come. And that's why a lot of times you'll see a procession. If you see it on TV or an enactment, it always starts with the Fool, because the Fool was sort of the low man on the totem pole, and then it goes on from there. So this actually, so they added the major arcana having to do with that. So I think that's interesting. Right around 1370, we had block printing started. So it's like, oh, okay. So now we have the ability to mass produce these things. In the 1440 is the first written reference to specifically tarot. Before that, it was called a whole bunch of different things. And by the way, the reason why, Mary, you feel like it has to be French or it has to be
Italian.
because that's where basically that's where it started, like Italy.
That's crazy.
The
Yeah.
Renaissance. And then and here we go. Now we're going to go to France. Okay. Let's go to 1700.
Past life.
Yeah, 1700s, we have Estrella. Okay. So Estrella was the first professional tarot reader. And he emerged and he wrote the first book on cartomancy, which is what this is called, like tarot reading of cards is cartomancy. So 1700. So yes, Italy and France really, if you're looking for something, yes, that's what you'd want to do.
Okay.
And then 1800s, Levi, he started working with writing, but he added the magical element. So that was in the 1800s. He added the magical element to the whole tarot situation. And then everybody else and then they were like, oh, that's sort of interesting. So then all the occultists jumped on the bandwagon. And then we come to Pixie and the 1912, 1920. And this was very important. Okay. And there was people, these occultists, okay, felt that specifically tarot was too all over the place. It had no structure. And, there was French people and, Spanish people and all these people, and each one had a different take on everything. So this group of secret society got together. It was called the Golden Dawn. It included A.E. Waite, who is the Rider-Waite deck, Aleister Crowley, which was a very strange person. He was very strange. He was probably I don't know, evil, or he did the Thoth deck. So if you really want to get something really wacky, like go to that. And then one of the other people were Arthur Conan Doyle, and we all know him from the whole
James Bond
Sherlock Holmes things, which it totally makes
Sherlock
sense,
Holmes,
because this whole situation was about the mysteries of life. And of course, what did he do? He wrote Sherlock Holmes about mysteries. So that was very cool. And then so then what happened is, all right, so now they wrote all this and they wrote it all down, and but now they needed a deck. They needed a deck, which is the one I showed you, the Rider-Waite deck. They needed a deck that could come out and could go with all the stuff that they wrote. So Pamela Coleman Smith / Pixie was part of the group, and Waite said to her, hey, listen, I got a project for you. I want you to create a deck in 30 days, okay, 78 cards, 30 days, and it has to illustrate not only everything we wrote, about the meaning of the cards. It has to bring in numerology. It has to bring in astrology and all the stuff, and I need it in 30 days, and we're not going to pay you very much money, and we're going to give you a stipend, okay? So
wow.
She did it. She went to a cottage in England with her friends of the family or whatever. And she wrote, she created these cards. Now, she was originally a set designer. So if you look at the Rider-Waite deck, you're going to see a lot of the things, they look like people are on a stage. They look like people are on a stage because that's what she did. So, she's just amazing. I mean, it's just like, it blows my mind. And she wasn't that old when she did this. Okay. And her experience was really in doing flyers and stuff for theatrical things. So
what year is this? What year do you?
This is like right around 1912, 1920, somewhere around that. So now her deck was the first deck that actually had pictures on the minor arcana. Okay. So before that, like when you will find your deck, when you find your old vintage deck, okay, you're going to see that the major arcana are not going to have pictures on it. So there was no, you had to learn it. There was just 3 swords, 3 cups, you know, they were in a different, you know, position or whatever, but there was no hint as to what it meant. Okay.
Wow.
You had to learn it. So this was the first time that there was actually pictures on the cards to help people learn about it.
Okay.
So anyways, she was like amazing. What else did I have here? And then, you know, then we go to, you know, now we go to today. Okay. And tarot has become an art form. I mean, I don't know, I have to count them, but I got to have 50 to 100 decks. I will admit I'm a deckaholic. I am. I'm sorry. Yeah, I am. I'm a deckaholic. Whenever I go like to a new place, the first thing I do is I say, "Oh, where's the local metaphysical store?" Okay, because you're going to make friends. You'll make. I could go anywhere in the world. Where's the metaphysical store?
Yeah.
I got friends already. All right. So, but then again, I feel bad. I can't walk out with nothing. So, yeah.
Gotcha.
So I got it. All right. So you could put Pixie down now here.
Okay.
We're done with Pixie. So now we come to the present time, and there's thousands and thousands of decks, and some of them are so interesting. And
Really?
I want to show you. And they have, each one has their own, I guess, energy. Okay.
Yeah. Gotcha.
And I'm gonna and so like this is one of my favorites, and I didn't like it at first. It's called the Light Seer Tarot, and I didn't like it at first because it was very ethnic. You know, like I wasn't used to seeing, you know, the Queen of Pentacles, you know, with a turban on. So at first I was like, oh, here's the Queen of Pentacles.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Okay, but it's so beautiful.
It is
beautiful. So it was a little bit of a shocker, but I can almost feel her energy better than I could that other Queen of Pentacles who was just sitting there. But remember, Pamela Coleman Smith, she was doing theatrical. This is emotional, and they're just beautiful. They are just okay. What's this one? Look at this one, Judgment. Oh my God, it's beautiful. This is Reborn, Rebirth. So I love this deck, but I don't necessarily use this deck for readings, only because the other one is like second nature to me, and I've made a you know, like it's my language. So this is just for fun. But if somebody says to me, "Tell me a story," you know, what's going to happen with this? And I say, okay, universe, tell me a story. Then I like to use these cards for the story, and I'll lay them out, and then I'll get some background, and then I always know when to stop. You know.
Now, do you always get your decks from metaphysical shops?
No, sometimes I buy them on Amazon. You know, like because you know what, a lot of them you don't have them. So for instance, let me see, where's my newest deck, which I just got. And you know what, if I go for a reading with somebody and they're using a deck, I'll be like, oh, what deck is that? You know? Oh, I got to have that. All right.
I do have a question though. As far as just when you are, is there something that you recommend people getting into it that they look for, or is there like, it's like, you know, when you
feel
like you, is it should you allow yourself to?
Personally, okay, I really feel that you should sort of start with this Rider-Waite deck. You know, it's like the beginning deck. So get that, and only because there's so many books. So there's a book called Power Tarot, which is sort of how I started. And Power Tarot, you look it up, and it says this is the card, and then this is what it means this is what it means in general. This is what it means for health. This is what it means for finances. This is the message. So I like that one because I feel like it's good to learn. And
get the basics out of the way, and then the other ones are more like have more nuance to them.
It really depends on what you want tarot to accomplish. If you want to be a tarot reader, and you know, then I feel you need to get the basics. And but by the way, with the Golden Dawn, they called them initiates. If you were going to study tarot with the Golden Dawn, you became an initiate, okay? And you had to be initiated into the secrets and the rituals of the tarot. So if you're a Gemini with a Scorpio moon like me, I gotta go down to I gotta dig down to the bottom. I gotta know everything. But let's just say you want to have fun. Let's just say, no, I don't want to be a professional tarot reader. I just want to have fun. All right, well then go to the store and get what speaks to you. Maybe it's the cat tarot. I went to Egypt. Okay, so I went to Egypt, and of course, I had to come home and get the ancient Egyptian tarot, okay, which is sort of cool because it tells you all about the different gods in Egypt.
Yeah,
so that was like cool. So it's not only tarot, but it's also learning
a history lesson.
And this Gaian tarot, which I was showing you, I haven't even opened it yet, but this is, if you're a nature person, this is supposed to extremely beautiful. It's called Gaian Tarot, Healing the Earth and Healing Ourselves. So I don't think that I would actually do readings with this. Probably not, but for me, it would be good,
Right.
Let's see if I can, let me just open this up again.
Yeah, Cheetah wants to know about tarot too.
Oh, you should. Oh, you know what? Maybe I'm going to send you the cat tarot. Anyway, here's the Hermit card. This is sort of cool. They're all the Gaian tarot is very nature oriented. It's got animals in it.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So like, let's say, well, Namir, you're an animal person. Maybe
I'm an air conditioning person.
Yeah. So maybe you would like that. Now, and then here's another deck. Here's another deck that I love. Okay, because I am an astrologer. Okay, so what happened was, first of all, tarot was getting a little boring to me because after 50 some odd years, I'd be like, but then people say to me, I say, oh, I see this guy coming. When's he coming? It's very hard in tarot to tell them that because like they don't wear watches up there. So they might say spring. I said, okay, they're showing me flowers. I know it's spring. Well, what spring? I don't know. So I decided that, I'm going to learn astrology to add it in here. So this deck called the Zodiac Tarot, I love this one because it's got, and by the way, each card a tarot card has an astrological counterpart. Okay. So this deck, gives you the astrological counterpart. Okay. So this is the 9 of wands. Okay. 9 of wands, and the 9 of wands, in my world, it's like, I'm really tired. I'm beat up and, I'm exhausted, and it's Sagittarius sun in Sagittarius, which, that sort of makes sense because Sagittarius is all about running around and adventure, and then sun is there. So yeah, you could be tired for that. Yeah. So I love this deck because I'm learning, not am I doing tarot, but I'm learning the zodiac. So for instance, here's the strength card. That's Leo, which makes sense. So that's really cool. So if you're interested in astrology, learning you want to learn tarot, but you want to learn astrology too. And each one of these people, each one of these artists and people that are doing it, they'll give you a different perspective. Okay. And so you're learning. It's not just one perspective. And then that's where your intuition comes in, because now you're realizing that there could be many meanings for this. Right. So now what I want to do is throw a monkey wrench in this whole situation here, which I said I was going to do. Now that I've talked about all of this stuff and the 78 cards, let's talk about reversals. Oh my God. Okay. So what does that mean? That means if you have reverse cards, that changes the whole situation. What does it mean if you have a reverse card? So, and there's many ways, it depends on how you look at it. Sometimes it means that you have too much of that card, or you have too little of that card, or it's blocked, or some people say if it's right side up, it has to do with the exterior world. If it's upside down, it has to do with the interior world. Quite personally, I don't necessarily read. I don't read the upside down cards. Only because, especially when I'm doing readings, I don't have time. I don't have time to say, well, if it was right side up, it'd be this. And no. And for me, there's enough cards in the deck to communicate what I need to communicate. So,
okay, gotcha.
But some people, if you want to read reverses, hey, you just be my guest. And when I do my readings, I sometimes just skip the cards in the layout that I'm using. I skip the cards. And it's interesting because the cards are relevant in that they're not relevant. Okay. So if I get it upside down, I'm doing a reading, get upside down tower. I'm like, oh, goody. You're not getting you're not getting a tower for the rest of the reading. All right. So that's a good thing. So, anyway, but now if you want to learn reversals, then you're going to, you have a whole nother set of criteria you got to do.
Wow.
So, yeah, so that's sort of what I have to do. I think we're getting close to time here, but
we're at an hour. Yeah, but I mean that's you got the basics all in there, like really good within an hour.
Oh, that's good. And again, it's very important. Again, if you don't want to be a professional tarot reader, you just want to have some fun, you need some guidance, then go to the metaphysical store and see what speaks to you. Just go in there and you're like, oh, look, cat tarot, or look, steampunk tarot. Not interesting for me, steampunk tarot, but hey, somebody.
For somebody, but just to get like kind of like acquainted with it. Yeah.
And again, if somebody's really intuitive and psychic, they could pick up one of these tarots and not really know that much about it and read fine, because it's their like I'm sort of prejudiced because I spent like 50 years studying this stuff.
Wow.
But
that's amazing.
It's like when I walk into a metaphysical, I'm like drawn to a certain crystal. I'm like, exactly. And it has to be a small. I go, okay, I like this one, but I need the smaller one that's not $300. Yeah.
And then also, God, I'm sure you're reminding me, I've got the crystal tarot. What else have I got? Oh, I got so many. I don't know. In fact, I got so many that I even forget that I have them. I see them. I'm like, oh yeah, look at that one. So the fairy tarot, I got, and I also have different cards that I use for different events. So what I discovered is this Rider-Waite deck scares the cheeses out of a lot of people. Okay. So
how do you spell that? Rider-Waite?
It's the RIDERWAITE, Rider-Waite. And you can get it Amazon,
Okay.
Now there's different kinds of Rider-Waite, like there's the universal Rider-Waite. Some of them are a little bit more colorful.
Okay.
But I like this because you can get this with Power Tarot, get the book Power Tarot, and you can lay it out and look at it and, try to learn. But again, the light seers, I like this. This is because if you're clairsentient, it'll bring all sorts of emotions up there. And she also wrote a book that goes with it. It's just amazing. So
wow.
That's it. So let's I think I might pull some cards here. I think I'm going to use
Yay.
So does somebody want to ask a question? Does somebody want to ask a question? But again, remember, it's got to be a good question.
One of them.
Do you have anyone there on have a
Vision
question?
Light wanted to know, can you say what's her focus this week?
Oh, what should her focus be this week?
Yeah, Vision Light wanted to know.
Okay. All right. So let's sort of ask the universe. I'm going to like shuffle this, pull out 3 cards. They gotta be right, they gotta be right side up. And I'm gonna give her 3 cards and see if I can get a message for her about what to do this week. Okay, so let's see here. I gotta cut this.
All right, Vision Light. So Tarot Mistress Barbara is pulling your cards.
Okay. So this is like, give me some insights in this week. Oh, okay. Vision Light. Okay. Oh, okay. So and I would like some feedback if this makes any sense. Okay. So the first card I got here is the Lover's card. Okay. So the Lover's card is quite obviously, it's about relationships. Now, it can actually be about a a relationship, but it can also be about partnerships or any, duality or something like that. Okay. So that's the first card. All right.
Okay.
So maybe she might have an issue with it could be working with other people, her job, or an actual physical relationship. Now, this is interesting. Whoa. Okay, so now I got the Six of Swords. Six of Swords is like, for me, it's the moving on card. Okay, moving on to calmer waters. So if I put these two cards together, it could mean either she's got a relationship issue and she needs to move on, or whatever's happening in this relationship is is like dissipating, and she'll be moving on to clearer waters. Okay.
Okay, gotcha.
All right. And then we have the third card here is the Moon card. So the Moon card is very emotional, and the Moon card is, when you go out in like everything looks great in the sun, you go out at night and everything doesn't look the same. So this could be a card of confusion, deception, or, so what I would say to her, if this is right, having to do with this relationship or partnership, she really would need to look at what's real and what's not real. Okay. So
Right,
we
gotcha.
talked about the monkey brain before. And one thing I will tell you if it has to do with relationships, and you're reading yourself, just forget it. Just don't even bother, because you can't separate yourself from your emotional attachment. Okay.
Right.
So I would say to her, if there is a situation here that she's thinking about leaving or changing, really, try to understand what your criteria are, and never, ever, 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 ever make decisions based on fear. So
Okay.
figure out what's happening. If it's happening because of a fear-based thing, don't do it, because you might be making a decision based on something that'll never happen.
Right.
However, if it's your intuition, it's just like, I don't know, my intuition says I shouldn't stay here. There's better things, and I don't know why I feel this way. There's no reason. Then that's okay. Then that makes sense.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
so does she have any anything about that?
She hadn't said anything yet,
Okay.
but I gave it to her in chat as well. So,
Okay.
so if something happened, I know she will most definitely be back next week to say something, or maybe later. So,
all right. So what I'm going to do here is, next thing I want to do is let me take this Zodiac Tarot. I'm going to take my Zodiac Tarot, and I'm going to do a general, just a one carder, for like tomorrow.
okay.
What's happened? Well, what's going on tomorrow? What could happen? And then again, once you add astrology into this, it's totally amazing. And what's amazing to me is something will happen, and then I'll pull one of these, and I'm like, oh my God, Mars is in whatever, Libra, and that's exactly what's happening. Mars is actually in Libra. Okay.
Oh wow.
All right, so let me see what we got. This is for tomorrow. Okay, let's see here. Okay. So we got the Two of Pentacles. Okay. So Pentacles, Earth sign. I call this the multitasker card. So the card for tomorrow for everybody, me, Jason, everyone out there, is we're going to be juggling a lot of stuff. Okay. We'll be juggling a lot of stuff.
Right.
And the stuff we're going to be juggling it's going to be earthy things. Okay. I'm juggling money. I'm juggling my time. I'm juggling, anything with twos in it, she's, juggling home and family, that kind of thing. Yeah, so it's not a bad card. It's just like I'm trying to get all this stuff done, you know, so that I can get on. So this is the kind of card where you might have to start making a list. You know, that you get to a point in your thing, and you're like, okay, I got to do this, I got to do that, and you're like, time to get out the pencil and paper here because I'm going to forget something.
Right. And that is exactly what's happening tomorrow, Barbara.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so what am I doing tomorrow? It looks like, I haven't unpacked yet. So that could be my unpacking card because I haven't unpacked yet. So, all right. So is there any any questions from anybody? I'm ready to talk here.
I mean, so could cards have many different meanings? So you really have to know what each card has like separate meanings. So how would you?
Definitely, because if I go for a tarot reading, which I do every once in a while, I have to turn off my tarot brain. Okay. I have to turn off my tarot brain because remember, you're putting, this is your language with the universe. Okay. So it's like what that tarot reader gets from that card and what
it's going to be unique to that.
It might be similar, but it might be different. So and there are sometimes I have to look at a card and I have to say, well, it's either this or this, so either you, like I said with the one card, for the lady, I said, it looks like a partnership of some kind or a relationship of some kind. Now, if I had more cards, I could figure that out, what category this had to do with. But so you sort of have to know, So and that's where your intuition comes in.
That's what I was going to say with you being a psychic as well and having those, do you find that it helps give like the person that you're reading the visual, like kind of helps get your point across a little bit more, or
it's really it's my tool. It's my tool.
Okay, it's a tool. Yeah.
It's just a tool. That's it. It's just a tool. So don't think it's something bad or and again, people say, oh, you use cards, now I have friends that just psychic mediums that just write. I call them scribblers, whatever. That's just how they learn. So they talk and they scribble things. Some people just doodle. I don't know. And that's okay. That's what they do. And everybody has a different way of doing it. And I do have to say, sometimes I'm like, oh, you haven't been reading tarot that long. I've been doing it for 50 years. But then I realized that we have the internet now. People have people that they like to watch on the internet, and people are learning fast, by watching other people. And then that's the whole thing. You want to watch other people. That's fabulous. That's how you learn. But just pick out the good stuff and make it your own.
Right.
And you'll understand. You'll say, oh, you know what? They said do this, but that's not resonating with me, or they'll say, oh yeah, that's, I like that. That resonates with me. So the main thing is with tarot is you are making a language. You're creating a language with spirit. That spirit can talk to you through the cards.
Okay.
And that's going to come with that comes with practice. And one of the best ways, and again, Mary, when you get your cards, and Jason, one of the best ways to learn is just pull a card of the day. Get yourself a little journal and pull a card of the day like I just did. Okay, so you'll be like, okay, Two of Pentacles, but it's going to be this. And then, maybe underneath it at the end of the day, you write down like, oh yeah, this happened, that happened, this happened. Or maybe something happened that wasn't what you thought it was going to be, but it actually had to do with that juggling, but it wasn't what you thought it was. Does that mean?
Gotcha. Yeah.
And then after a while, when the card comes up, it means something. So for instance, like Teresa Caputo, her husband, or whatever his name is, what's her husband's name? I don't remember. Whatever his husband's name is, but whatever it is, he drove a motorcycle. So
Right.
she would say when somebody showed her a picture of her husband, she knew that he either did a motorcycle or he was a jerk or something. No, I don't know. But that he drew a motorcycle or his name was such and such.
Okay.
So, and you probably have that too, that, like, when something comes up. Yeah. And we'll, hopefully we'll be talking again about gifts and how to use your gifts. How do I know if I have a gift? And then, whatever. But
yep, we will. You are in the series of
excited.
You have a gift. What's next? Absolutely, Miss Barbara.
Or do I even want this? And I do get a lot of people that really, I feel bad for them. Like they have the gift but it's torturing them. They don't know don't know what to do with it. It's like, I see spirits all the time. How do I get them? And again, you could say, they're attached, but basically spirits are around all the time. We have to learn how to psychically protect ourselves. And that's the other thing I want to say. Before you start working with the tarot or start doing cards, you should have some kind of little ritual or some little prayer that you say, before you start. Your spirit guides,
Gotcha.
We'll like put this little magic mirror bubble around you. And it could be a mantra, it could be a ritual. Again, I don't know. I don't go through a whole big thing right now. I just sort of take a deep breath and I say, okay, here we go.
I like that. Yeah.
Okay, showtime.
I like that. Barbara, I got to Melbourne and I checked into the hotel and I got off the elevator at floor 5. And as soon as I got off the elevator, I'm like, damn it, it's haunted. And this was the hallway, not even my room yet. It was like nails on a chalkboard. The atmosphere in that hallway was not good. And then and this was the Hilton, guys. And then I got into my room and I said, damn it, they followed me in here, and my room was haunted. So I got on my phone, got on my camera, video, what's your name? And I heard a woman and she goes, help, help.
Oof.
Yeah. And this is all before I even got to Spirit Fest. I had just gotten to the hotel.
Well, thank goodness I don't have that. But, can you, do you travel with any crystals or anything?
I travel with everything. I crossed her.
And,
Yeah, I crossed her. And the room got so nice and light and airy, and I sprayed it.
Oh, you got your spray.
I got my spray.
Should we
Yeah, I think we need a word from our sponsors. I think
I have a little something about Mary's spray right now.
Do you feel like there is some dark negativity surrounding you? Feel drained when you are around certain people? Frankie and Lord's Apothecary can help with their spiritual cleansing spray. Just a few sprays will clear the negativity away. Available at marythemedium.com.
So, and I also had, not to tout the spray, but I also, and sorry about my voice, guys.
No, it's okay.
I also had a reader come to me today, and she said, I need help. And she was directly across from me. And I said, sure, what's the problem? And so anyway, we were talking. Had attachments. Okay. And I used my spray. I sprayed her, and she went back. And then she got a lot of customers. And she came to me after Spirit Fest and said, you saved my butt. Your spray saved my butt. She said, because there would have been no way could I have done today because I couldn't connect at all. I was blocked.
Wow.
Yeah. So it got rid of her attachment. I mean, you could literally see her change.
Aww.
Yeah. And so anyway, thank you so much, Miss Barbara, for
you're so welcome.
what you're doing.
Thank you.
letting me talk about my favorite thing in the whole, well, not
I love it.
favorite things.
I want to learn.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you'll get a deck. You start out with, your card of the day, start with your journal, and, and then you can work up to 3 cards, past, present, future. What do I need to do that? And then there is, mostly when people learn, there's a spread called the Celtic Cross. That's what a lot of people learn on. But for me, the Celtic Cross never spoke to me. I never understood it. The layout, it didn't work. So I sort of made up my own.
Okay, gotcha.
In the back of Power Tarot, that the book that I've told everybody, there's like a lot of spreads in there. There's like a job spread, a this spread, or that spread. So if you get that, you buy that book and then you get a deck. But again, you'd be doing it with the Rider-Waite, because that's what everything's, that's what it's all based on.
Okay, gotcha.
But again, you're so like psychic that, you could probably pick up anything and be able to, be able to read it, And again, some people teach where, it's just like pick it up and go with it. And that's, it's just, but I'm, I'm a sort of a purist. I'm a tarot purist, and I gotta,
that's good.
I want you to know about Pixie, because Pixie changed everything.
Yeah.
Changed everything,
Wow.
And she was an amazing woman that did amazing thing in 30 days and created something that will last forever. Pixie.
She is literally very gifted.
So young. Yeah.
Cute, right? So cute. Very, she's very teeny. That's why they called her Pixie.
But she's also very gifted.
Oh God, yeah. Of course.
Looking at her eyes. Oh yeah.
Yeah, definitely. That's why she was part of the Golden Dawn, and she was creative. And again, she was like a set designer and a graphic designer. She did flyers and whatever.
Wow. Very artistic. Very.
I can see when her birthday is, because she looks like a Leo to me.
Yeah.
So anyway, thank you, Pixie.
and thank you so much, Barbara. So we're gonna have Miss Barbara Tarot Mistress on again.
Okay.
We're gonna have her on as much as we can, and then she's gonna get sick of us and leave. So
Jason, you and I were talking about the residents. That would be something interesting. The residents of the earth. I do have a friend who's like sort of into that, and that's very interesting too. The whole resonance, the vibration of
the human resonance. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And how it changes, because I have a friend who she'll call up, she'll go, "Oh, it's going to be a bad way." I'm like, "Wow." Just, the residence, residence is very negative. Like, and then
frequency.
There's a lot of upset, angry people, So
wow.
we have to make people happy so that the residents can be good.
Well, our positive, we're meant to break the system.
System. Okay. Well, we do have Pluto Aquarius, I believe. So that's break the system. So we are
and bringing in the light. Yes.
Very much. So hopefully I've inspired somebody to pick up the tarot, and who knows, 10 years from now they'll be helping people with their tarot and themselves. And also, I have to say this, there are people I've been reading for years, and they tell me, "Barbara, listen," he goes, "you helped me more in like one session than my psychiatrist did in like 3 years." Because I don't care about the past. I want to know about the past, but I don't care about the past. I'm not going to make I don't want you to relive your relationship with your mother. No. We got to move forward. The answer to the question is, how do I move forward from here? Not, I can't change that.
Right.
So anyway.
That's great.
That's it. Okay.
Well, thank you very much, Barbara.
This was so much
fun.
Looking
forward.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll see you.
Mary, thank you for,
thank you so much,
hanging in. Yep, I appreciate it.
Okay.
All right.
right.
Thank you, everyone, for
Everybody have a-
watching. And
Everybody
right.
have a wonderful night, and we'll see
Absolutely.
you
And
later.
happy holiday weekend, everybody.
hold on one sec there, Barbara, before you don't hang up or anything. We were going to say goodbye to everyone online, and thanks for watching. And marythemedium.com for readings and for her wonderful spray. The real Mary. Oh, go ahead, Mary. Sorry.
And how do people get in touch with you,
Okay.
Barbara?
Barbara,
Yes. It's thetarotmistress.com.
Okay.
And my email is barbara@thetarotmistress.com. I do have an Instagram page. My Facebook page is not so great. I got to work on that.
Me too.
Yeah, it's like
Instagram. Yeah.
Yeah, Instagram.
And I am going to be posting more on Instagram. I have a lot of photos and everything, but I just have to have time,
Yeah. So, let everybody know, where you're going to be and what events you're doing. Okay.
Okay. And I am doing an event on June 22nd, I think, in Deer Park. It's it's like a spiritual expo outside in
really?
Deer Park, Long Island.
Send me the info and I'll get it. I'll put it up. Yeah. We'll promote it for you.
I don't know if there's any Long Island people listening out there, but
I'm sure
you can see me there. It looks like it's going to be fun outside, sort of like Spirit Fest, but outside. But
nice.
The people at Spirit Fest, I bought some artwork. Oh my God, those people, they're like unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yep.
So, okay.
All right, guys.
Everybody.
All right, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.